The message arrived on a cold Tuesday morning in the year 2347. Ambassador Laura Bennett was sitting in her office on the top floor of the Terran diplomatic center when her assistant rushed in with a datapad in his hands. His face was pale, and his hands were shaking. "Ma'am, you need to see this," he said. "It's from the Galactic Council." Laura took the datapad and read the message slowly. The words were formal and cold, written in the standard diplomatic language that alien species used when they wanted to sound important. The Galactic Council, a group of 47 alien species that controlled most of the known galaxy, was demanding that a representative from Earth appear before them within 14 days. They claimed that humanity had broken something called the expansion accords by building a colony on a planet called Kepler-44b. Laura read the message 3 times. Then she smiled. She had been waiting for this moment for 20 years. "Get me Admiral Kevin Price," she said. "Tell him it's time." Kevin Price was a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had served in the Terran Space Navy for 40 years, and he knew secrets that would make the Galactic Council tremble. He arrived at Laura's office within the hour, still wearing his silver uniform with the eagle symbol on his chest. "They finally made their move," Laura said. Handing him the datapad, Kevin read the message and laughed. "They think we're scared. They think we're going to come crawling to them and beg for mercy." "That's exactly what they think," Laura replied. "And that's exactly what we wanted them to think." For 150 years, humanity had been lying to the galaxy. Every ship that left the solar system looked old and slow. Every piece of technology that alien traders saw was outdated by decades. Every message that the Council intercepted made humanity look weak and primitive. But the truth was very different. Beneath the surface of Mars, there were factories that built warships by the thousands. Hidden in the clouds of Venus, there were research stations where scientists developed weapons that made alien technology look like toys. Scattered across the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, there were military bases where millions of soldiers trained for a war that everyone knew would come someday. The Terran Empire was not weak. It was the most powerful force in the galaxy, and no one knew it except the humans themselves. "I'll take the diplomatic ship Horizon to meet with the Council," Laura said. "We'll keep up the act for now. Make them think we're nervous and confused." "And if they try something stupid?" Kevin asked. "Then Admiral Patricia Santos and the 7th Fleet will be waiting at the edge of Council space. 300 warships, including the dreadnought Carolina. If things go wrong, we'll be ready." Kevin nodded. He had worked with Patricia for years and trusted her completely. She was the best tactical commander in the Navy, and her fleet was armed with weapons that the Council could not even imagine. 3 days later, Laura boarded the Horizon and left Earth behind. The ship was designed to look ordinary, with engines that seemed slow and hull plating that appeared thin and weak. But hidden beneath the surface were systems that could outrun and outfight anything the Acts Council had. As Earth grew smaller in the rear viewport, Laura thought about everything that had brought humanity to this moment. When humans first discovered faster-than-light travel 200 years ago, they had been excited to meet other species. They had sent messages of peace and friendship into the void, hoping to find allies and friends among the stars. Instead, they had found the Galactic Council. The Council claimed to promote peace and cooperation, but Laura had spent her career studying their true nature. She had read the classified reports about the Volani, peaceful species that had been destroyed when they refused to follow Council orders. She had seen the evidence of what happened to the Croth, who had developed weapons that the Council considered too dangerous. She had documented dozens of cases where young species were crushed, absorbed, or simply erased from history because they threatened the Council's power. Humanity had learned from these examples. Instead of announcing themselves to the galaxy, they had hidden their true strength. They had built their empire in secret, expanding to over 300 worlds while pretending to struggle with basic space travel. Now the Council had finally decided to threaten Earth. They thought they were dealing with a weak and primitive species that would surrender. At the first sign of trouble, they were about to learn how wrong they were. The journey to Valanthos Prime, the The station where the council held its meetings took 12 days. Laura spent the time reviewing her strategy and preparing for every possible outcome. She knew that the next few days would determine the future of humanity, and she was not going to make any mistakes. She also spent time thinking about the people she was fighting for, the colonists on Kepler 44b, who had built homes and farms and schools on a world that the council claimed to belong to someone else. The children on Earth, who deserved to grow up in a galaxy where humanity was respected, not threatened. The billions of humans scattered across 300 worlds, all of them counting on her to protect their future. The weight of responsibility was heavy, but Laura did not let it crush her. She had trained for this her entire life. She was ready. On the 11th day of the journey, she received a coded message from Admiral Santos. The 7th Fleet was in position, hidden in a nebula at the edge of Council space. They were ready to move at a moment's notice. Laura sent back a simple reply. Stand by. Wait for my signal. On the 12th day, the Horizon arrived at Valanthos Prime. The station was massive, larger than any human structure Laura had ever seen. It had been built at the center of 5 stars using technology that was thousands of years old. The Galactic Council had been meeting here since before humans had invented writing. As the Horizon approached the docking port, Laura looked out the window at the dozens of alien ships surrounding the station. There were Velthari cruisers with their insect-like designs. There were Draxi warships covered in scales like the serpentine species that built them. There were Morath vessels that glittered like crystals in the starlight. All of them were watching the small human ship approach. All of them were expecting to see a frightened ambassador from a weak and primitive world. Laura straightened her uniform and checked her appearance in the mirror. She looked calm and professional, but inside her heart was pounding with excitement. The galaxy was about to change forever. She walked to the airlock and waited for the docking clamps to engage. When the door opened, she stepped through into the station, flanked by 2 Marines in ceremonial dress. The game had begun. The corridors of Valanthos Prime were ancient and grand. Laura Bennett walked slowly, taking in the statues of long-dead alien leaders that lined the walls. Some of them were from species that no longer existed, wiped out by wars or disasters, or the quiet cruelty of the Council itself. The 2 Marines behind her said nothing.
Ow.
But Laura could feel their tension. They knew what was at stake. They knew that the next few hours would decide whether humanity would be free or enslaved. The high assembly chamber was the largest room Laura had ever seen. It was shaped like an amphitheater, with rows of seats rising up on all sides. Each seat was designed for a different type of alien body. Some were chairs, some were pools of liquid, some were platforms covered in sand or rock. The council represented 47 species, and each one had different needs. Today, only the senior members had gathered. Laura counted about 20 aliens in the chamber, all of them watching her with expressions that ranged from curiosity to contempt. At the center of the chamber, raised above all the others, sat High Arbiter Zethrix. He was a Velthari, an insect-like creature with a hard black shell and multiple arms. His compound eyes reflected the light in strange patterns, and his mandibles clicked softly as he studied the human ambassador. "You are the representative of the Terran species?" His voice was translated by implants in Laura's ear, but she could still hear the arrogance behind the words. "I am Ambassador Laura Bennett of the Terran Empire," she replied, making sure to emphasize the word empire. Several of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. A creature made of living crystal, named Crystallos, spoke with a voice like breaking glass. "Empire? That is a very bold word for a species that has barely learned to travel between stars." Laura said nothing. She kept her face calm and waited. Shelrix raised one of his arms for silence. "We have brought you here to discuss a serious matter. Your species has built a colony on the world called Kepler 442b. This world is within territory that was claimed by the Draxi Dominion 3,000 cycles ago. You have violated the expansion accords." A massive serpent in one of the seats uncoiled slightly. This was Sithrak, the Draxi representative. Her scales were dark red, like dried blood, and her forked tongue flickered as she spoke. "The terms are simple," Sithrak said. "You will remove your colony from our territory. You will pay 50,000 standard units in compensation. You will accept Council supervision of all your future expansion. These demands are not open to discussion." Laura had expected exactly this. The Council's strategy was always the same. Find a young species, create a conflict, and use it to establish control. Humanity had studied their methods for decades. "And if we refuse?" Laura asked, keeping her voice polite and calm. The chamber went silent. No one refused the Council. No one had the strength to refuse. Zethrix leaned forward, his compound eyes glittering. "Then the Council will be forced to act. Your colonies will be taken apart. Your ships will be seized. Your homeworld will be placed under our control until your species learns to behave properly." Laura nodded slowly, as if she was thinking about the offer. In truth, she was counting the seconds until the signal from her ship arrived. The Horizon had been sending a coded message to the 7th Fleet since the moment she entered the chamber. "I understand," she said. "But may I ask a question? What force does the Council plan to use to accomplish these goals?" Sithrak made a hissing sound that might have been laughter. "The combined fleet of the Galactic Council has 12,000 warships. Your species has at most 200 vessels capable of combat. Do you really think you can fight us?" Laura felt her datapad vibrate against her hip. The signal had been received. Admiral Santos was ready. "I think Laura said that your information about our capabilities might be a little outdated." Before anyone could respond, the chamber's communication system came to life. A new voice filled the room, calm and professional and completely human. "Desrix. This is Admiral Patricia Santos of the Terran Space Navy. We request permission to join this meeting through holographic transmission."
Yes.
Zethrix's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of confusion. "This is not normal procedure. How did you access our secure communication channels?" "We have our methods," Patricia replied. "May we proceed?" The Arbiter hesitated, then gestured to an assistant. A moment later, a holographic image appeared beside Laura. It showed Patricia Santos standing on the bridge of a warship. She was a woman in her 60s, with short silver hair, and eyes that had seen 1,000 battles. But it was not Patricia that made the chamber fall silent. It was what was visible through the windows behind her ships. More ships than anyone in the chamber had ever seen gathered in one place. Enormous dreadnoughts the size of small moons. Carriers surrounded by swarms of fighter craft. Destroyers and cruisers and frigates arranged in perfect formation. Stretching as far as the eye could see, the Terran 7th Fleet had arrived at the edge of Council space. And it was just a small part of humanity's true power, he thought. Patricia said with a slight smile that it was time to introduce ourselves properly. The silence in the chamber stretched on and on. Laura watched the alien faces around her, seeing shock and fear and disbelief. For thousands of years, the Council had been the supreme power in the galaxy. No one had ever challenged them like this, until now. Zethrix finally found his voice. "This is impossible. Our intelligence said your fleet had only 200 ships." "Your intelligence," Laura replied, "showed you exactly what we wanted you to see." She stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "For 150 years, the Terran Empire has been hiding its true strength. Every ship you observed, every technology you analyzed, every transmission you intercepted was carefully designed to make you think we were weak and primitive." The holographic display behind Patricia changed, showing images of hidden shipyards, secret research stations, and weapon systems that made Council technology look like ancient history. "The truth is very different," Laura continued. "Humanity developed faster than light travel 2 centuries ago. We have colonized over 300 worlds. Our fleet numbers in the tens of thousands. And our weapons are far more advanced than anything the Council possesses." Sithrak lunged forward in her seat. "You dare to threaten the Council? We will destroy your pathetic empire." Patricia's hologram turned to face the serpent. "I do not think you understand the situation. The fleet you are seeing is our 7th Fleet. We have 12 such fleets, each capable of operating independently across thousands of light years. And our home defense force is larger than all 12 combined." Kristallos, the crystal being, spoke again. "Why? Why did you hide for so long? Laura had been waiting for this question. Because we learned from watching you, she said. Laura gestured to the holographic display, and new images appeared. These were records that humanity had collected over decades of careful observation. Secret recordings of council meetings, evidence of destroyed civilizations, proof of crimes that the galaxy had never been allowed to see. The Galactic Council claims to support peace and cooperation, Laura said. But we watched what you did to the Villani when they refused to obey your orders. We saw what happened to the Croth when they developed technology you did not like. We documented how you have crushed every species that might have challenged your power. The chamber stirred with discomfort. These were secrets that the Council never discussed openly. Humanity chose a different path, Laura continued. Instead of announcing ourselves and waiting to be conquered, we watched. We learned. We prepared. And now, when you finally decided to threaten us, we are ready. Hi, Arbiter. Zethrix's mandibles clicked nervously. What do you want? We want what every species wants, Laura replied. The right to exist on our own terms. The right to expand without asking permission from powers that claimed our territory before our ancestors learned to make fire. The right to develop our technology without fear of being destroyed for being too advanced. She paused to let her words sink in. But we are not here to start a war. We are here to make a point. The age of council control is over. From this day forward, the Terran Empire will be treated as an equal partner in galactic affairs. Our colonies will stay where they are. Our fleet will patrol the borders we choose. And any species that threatens humanity will face the full consequences of that choice. Now, Sithrak's red scales seemed to darken with anger. The Council will never accept these demands. Patricia's hologram stepped forward. Then perhaps we should show you something else. Ambassador Bennett, would you like to explain? Laura nodded. 3 days ago, when I received the Council's message, I authorized a military operation near the Draxi border. At this moment, the Terran Third Fleet is positioned around your colony world of Sethrak Prime. They have not fired a single weapon. They have not hurt a single person. But they are there, and they will stay there until this assembly agrees to our terms. The Draxi representative exploded with rage. Sithrak's serpentine body coiled and uncoiled as she screamed threats and demands in her native language. But Laura noticed that the other delegates remained quiet. They were thinking, calculating, adjusting to a new reality. Kristallos, the Morith delegate, spoke with her chiming voice. You could have destroyed us. With the power you have, you could have swept away the Council fleet and taken control of the galaxy by force. Why are you choosing to negotiate instead? It was a good question, and Laura answered it honestly. Because humanity does not want to rule the galaxy. We want to live in it. We want to trade with other species to explore new worlds. To learn from ancient civilizations and share what we have discovered. We want peace. But we will not accept peace on our knees. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each alien delegate. The choice is yours. Accept the Terran Empire as an equal, and we can build a new era of real cooperation. Refuse, and we will defend ourselves with everything we have. We would prefer the first option, but we are completely prepared for the second. Zethrix turned to consult with the other delegates. Their voices rose and fell in urgent discussion, mixing together in a dozen different languages. Laura could not understand the words, but she could read the body. Language, fear, uncertainty, the slow acceptance of a new reality, while the delegates argued among themselves. Kristallos moved closer to Laura. The Morith's crystalline body caught the light and scattered it in rainbow patterns across the floor. Your species is remarkable, Kristallos said quietly. In all my years on the Council, I have never seen anyone challenge them like this. We didn't have a choice, Laura replied. We saw what happens to species that cannot defend themselves. And yet you offer partnership instead of conquest. That is unusual. Most species, given the power you possess, would simply take what they wanted. Laura shook her head. That's not who we are. Humanity has fought enough wars among ourselves to know that conquest never leads to lasting peace. We want something better. We want a galaxy where every species can live freely, without fear of being destroyed by those who are stronger. Crystallis was silent for a moment, her crystal form pulsing with soft light. The Moreth have been members of the Council for 6,000 years. In all that time, we have watched species rise and fall. We have seen empires built and destroyed. We have learned that power without wisdom leads only to ruin. She paused, and her voice became even softer. I believe your species may have both. Before Laura could respond, Zethrix called the chamber back to order. The debate among the delegates had ended, and now everyone was looking at the High Arbiter with anticipation. The Council has considered your statements, Zethrix said. His voice was more careful now, lacking the arrogance from before. We have questions before we can proceed, Laura said. You claim to want peace and cooperation, but you have spent over a century lying to us. How can we trust anything you say? Laura had prepared for this question. Trust is earned through actions, not words. Our deception was defensive. We never attacked Council ships. We never sabotaged Council operations. We simply protected ourselves from a coalition that has a history of destroying weaker species. Now that we are equals, we have no need to deceive you anymore. Cristello spoke next. You mentioned your desire to trade and share knowledge. What do you offer in return for recognition? Laura smiled. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for. Humanity has developed technologies that may interest the Council. Medical advances that can extend lifespans by hundreds of years. Energy systems more efficient than anything currently in use. Methods for turning dead worlds into living gardens. She paused for effect. We also have our culture to share. Our art, our music, our literature, our philosophy. Our civilization is young compared to yours, but it is rich and diverse. We have much to offer, and your weapons, Sithrak demanded. Her voice was still hostile, but she was asking questions instead of making threats. That was progress. Our military technology is not for sale, Laura said firmly, but we are willing to make defense agreements with species that show they are committed to peace. The meaning was clear to everyone. Side with humanity and gain protection. Oppose humanity and face the consequences. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single day. The Council requested a recess to discuss humanity's demands. Laura agreed, but made it clear that the Terran fleets would remain in position until an agreement was reached. This was not a threat, she explained, but simply a practical measure to ensure that both sides remained committed to finding a peaceful solution. The recess lasted for 6 hours. During that time, Laura stayed in a small waiting room near the assembly chamber. She refused offers of food and rest, understanding the importance of showing strength through patience. Humanity would not be rushed or intimidated. Patricia's hologram stayed with her, providing updates from the fleet. The Council's military commanders have been in contact with their governments, Patricia reported. Our intelligence suggests that at least a dozen species are already considering breaking away from the Council's position. They see which way the wind is blowing. Good, Laura said. The more cracks we can create in their unity, the easier this will be. The Draxi are still causing problems? Sithrak has been demanding that the Council authorize military action against our fleet at Sithrak Prime. Laura nodded. She had expected this. The Draxi were proud and aggressive, and they would not accept defeat easily. What's the response from the other delegates? Mostly negative. No one wants to start a war. They know they can't win. Even Zethrix seems to be looking for a way out of this without fighting. That was exactly what Laura wanted. The goal had never been to destroy the Council or conquer the galaxy. The goal was to change the rules of the game. To create a new order where humanity could live and grow without fear. When the delegates finally returned to the chamber, Laura could see that the atmosphere had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something more cautious and calculating. The Council was adjusting to a new reality, and they were trying to figure out how to survive in it. Shriek spoke first. The Council has discussed your proposals at length. We have several concerns that must be addressed before we can move forward. I'm listening, Laura said. First, the matter of the colony on Kepler 44 to B. The Draxi claim to this world is based on surveys conducted 3,000 years ago. While we acknowledge that your species has developed the planet more extensively, the principle of prior claim is fundamental to the expansion accords. Laura had thought carefully about how to handle this issue. The Draxi claim is based on a map, not on actual presence. They surveyed the world and drew a line around it, but they never built anything there. They never sent colonists. They never developed the resources. Humanity has cities on Kepler 4b. We have families there. Children have been born and raised on that world. We will not abandon them to satisfy a claim that exists only on paper, Zithrak hissed angrily. But Zithrax raised a hand for silence. What do you propose instead? The Arbiter asked. A new framework for territorial disputes, Laura replied. Claims should be based on actual presence and development, not on ancient surveys. Any species that wants to establish a colony on an empty world should be free to do so, regardless of who drew lines on a map thousands of years ago. And disputes should be resolved through negotiation, not through threats of force. The chamber buzzed with discussion. What Laura was proposing would overturn thousands of years of council tradition, but it would also open vast new territories to species that had been locked out of expansion by ancient claims they could never challenge. You are asking us to destroy the foundation of the expansion accords, Zethric said. I am asking you to build something better, Laura replied. The accords were designed to protect the power of species that were already dominant. They have prevented growth, blocked cooperation, and created anger that has been building for thousands of years. Humanity's offering you a chance to start fresh, Trish's hologram spoke up. If it helps, I can confirm that our fleet at Sethrak Prime has received no hostile response from Draxi forces. Their commanders understand that this situation does not need to end in violence. But that choice belongs to you, Sithrak hissed, but did not argue. The reality was becoming clear to everyone. The Council could not win a war against the Terran Empire. Their only options were to make a deal or to be destroyed. Crystallos spoke next. The proposal has merit. For too long, the expansion accords have served only the interests of the founding species. Many younger civilizations have been forced to accept unfair limits on their growth. A new framework, based on actual development rather than historical claims, would benefit everyone. Several other delegates murmured in agreement. Laura could see the council beginning to fracture along lines that had been hidden for centuries. The older, more powerful species wanted to maintain the status quo. The younger, weaker species saw an opportunity to gain rights they had never had before. Zethric studied the room, reading the mood of the delegates. He was an experienced politician, and he could see that the council's unity was crumbling. If he pushed too hard against humanity's demands, he might find himself leading a coalition that no longer existed. The council will need more time to consider these proposals fully, he said. We request a recess of 10 standard days to consult with our governments and prepare a formal response. Laura nodded. Agreed, but I want to be clear, the Terran fleet will remain in position until we reach an agreement. This is not a threat. It is simply a way to ensure that everyone stays focused on finding a peaceful solution. Understood, Zethric replied. His voice was flat, but Laura thought she detected a note of respect that had not been there before. As the delegates began to leave the chamber, Crystallos approached Laura again. The Morith's crystalline body sparkled in the light. You have changed everything today, Crystallos said. The galaxy will never be the same. That was the idea, Laura replied. I believe we will be friends, your species and mine. The Morith have been unhappy with the Council's restrictions for a long time. Your new framework offers possibilities that we had given up hoping for. Laura extended her hand in the human gesture of friendship. After a moment of hesitation, Crystallos extended a crystalline limb to meet it. Then let's build something new together, Laura said. Over the next 10 days? Laura received constant updates from Earth and from the fleets. The situation was developing exactly as she had hoped. Several species had already reached out through secret channels to express interest in trade agreements. Others were asking about mutual defense treaties. The Morith had formally requested permission to establish an embassy on Earth. The old order was collapsing, and something new was rising to take its place. But Laura knew that the hardest part was still ahead. Signing an agreement was one thing. Building a new galactic order would take generations. She was ready for the challenge. 10 days passed quickly. Laura spent most of that time in meetings with representatives from various species who wanted to discuss the new possibilities that her proposal had created. Some of them came openly, walking through the corridors of Valanthos Prime to meet with the human ambassador. Others came in secret, afraid of how the council might react to their interest in Earth. Laura welcomed them all. Each conversation was another crack in the council's unity, another thread in the web of relationships that humanity was building across the galaxy. When the assembly finally reconvened, the chamber felt different. The seats were more crowded than before. Word had spread about what was happening, and delegates from species that rarely attended council meetings had traveled to Valanthos Prime. To witness history being made, High Arbiter Zethrix called the session to order. His voice was calm and measured, lacking both the arrogance of their first meeting and the uncertainty of the second. He had accepted the new reality and was trying to make the best of it. The Galactic Council, after much discussion, has agreed to the following terms, he announced. The Terran Empire will be recognized as a full member of the galactic community, with all the rights and responsibilities that brings. The colony on Kepler 4 for 2B will remain under Terran control. The expansion accords will be revised to include the principles proposed by Ambassador Bennett. Laura listened carefully to each word. This was the moment she had worked toward for her entire career. In exchange, Zethrix continued, the Terran Empire agrees to open diplomatic relations with all Council species, to participate in scientific and cultural exchange programs, and to avoid military action against Council members, except in cases of self-defense or under mutual defense agreements. Laura stepped forward. The Terran Empire accepts these terms. And just like that, it was done. In a matter of days, humanity had transformed from a species that the galaxy dismissed as primitive, and weak into a major power that could not be ignored. The old order had been broken. Something new was beginning to take shape. Later that evening, Laura stood on the observation deck of the horizon, looking out at the stars. Patricia's hologram appeared beside her. The Council has already started reaching out to us privately, Patricia said. 6 species want trade agreements. 3 are asking about defense treaties. And the Morith have officially requested an embassy on Earth. It's just the beginning, Laura said. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Generations of work. Patricia paused. Do you ever wonder if we made the right choice? Hiding for so long, I mean? We could have revealed ourselves decades earlier. Laura thought about the question. If we had revealed ourselves earlier, we would have been too weak to resist. If we had waited longer, the Council might have discovered our secret on their own. The timing was right. We're strong enough to demand respect, but not so powerful that everyone unites against us. Balance, Patricia said. It always comes down to balance. It does. Laura turned back to the stars. But that's the human way. We adapt. We plan. We prepare, and when the moment comes, we act. Back on Earth, news of the diplomatic victory was spreading across every city and town on the planet. People who had grown up believing they were a small and weak species in a vast and dangerous universe were learning the truth. They were citizens of an empire. They were protected by fleets and technologies that made them equal to any power in the galaxy. In a small apartment in Chicago, a young woman named Sophie Grant watched the news broadcast with her grandfather, Daniel. He was a retired naval officer who had spent his entire career helping to maintain the deception that had protected humanity. You knew, Sophie said. All those years, you knew what we really were. Daniel smiled, his eyes bright with tears he did not try to hide. I knew, and I knew this day would come. I just didn't know if I would live to see it. Was it worth it? All the secrecy. All the sacrifice? Daniel took his granddaughter's hand. Look out that window. See those stars? They're ours now. Not just to look at, but to explore, to colonize, to call home. That's worth any sacrifice. Sophie looked at the stars. For the first time in her life, they seemed less like distant, unreachable lights and more like destinations waiting to be visited. The universe had opened up in a way she had never imagined. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we build," Daniel said. "We make friends with species who share our values. We trade with those who have something to offer. We explore worlds that no human has ever seen, and we make sure that no one ever threatens our home again on Valanthos Prime." Laura was packing her things for the journey back to Earth. There would be more negotiations ahead, more challenges, more problems to solve. The galaxy was vast and complicated, and humanity's place in it was still being written. But as she looked at the stars through her window, she felt something she had not allowed herself to feel for many years. Hope. The Galactic Council had tried to threaten Earth. They had expected a weak and frightened species that would accept whatever terms were offered. Instead, they had found an empire that had been preparing for this moment for over a century. Humanity had not responded with blind aggression. They had responded with strength and wisdom, demanding respect while offering friendship. They had changed the rules of the game without firing a single shot. And now, for the first time in human history, the universe was truly open to them. New worlds waited to be explored. New civilizations waited to be met. New wonders waited to be discovered. The journey would not be easy. There would be setbacks and failures, conflicts and compromises. But humanity had proven that they were ready for the challenge. They had shown the galaxy what they were capable of, as the horizon prepared to leave Valanthos Prime. Laura took one last look at the massive station where so much had changed. Then she turned away and walked to the bridge. It was time to go home. It was time to begin the next chapter of humanity's story. The dawn of a new era had begun.